and welcome to another episode of the Open Fields Podcast. I'm your host, again, Ryan Fields, along with our co-host, Ethan Landis. What's going on, E?
What's up, buddy?
Same stuff, different day, just another week. How was your week?
It's been good so far. Divisional round football this past weekend. Unfortunately for your Buccaneers, it kind of ends there. But we had a weekend where Kansas City and Buffalo put on a good show. Who else played? Packers got beat narrowly by the 49ers, and Baltimore beat the brakes off of the Texans.
Took the second half to do it, but yeah, they did because they went into halftime tied at 10.
And you know what? Unfortunately, that's one of the games that I really didn't watch. I didn't watch any of the games on Saturday. I watched both Sunday games where, I watched the second half of the Buccaneers and Lions game, and I watched the full Buffalo and Kansas City game.
Yeah, I actually didn't. I didn't watch any of the second game, the Buffalo and Kansas City game. I was just being a Bucs fan. That if you don't know, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. Been one since 1997. So I was 13 years old. But they just after that loss to Detroit, which I thought they had a shot there at the end, which they really did. Had a minute 58 to go, and the first play of the drive, they threw an interception and ended the game. But I just really, I don't really watch anything after my teams are out. I don't watch anything. I just kind of catch up on ESPN with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to kind of ask you and kind of give you the floor with that Bucs loss. Throughout the season, it was kind of up and down for them. They started off very poorly, and then they kind of turned it around and you kind of got on a run. What was kind of your thoughts going into the playoffs and kind of like what your expectations was for this team here?
Well, from the beginning, I mean, the expectations of the team wasn't very high to begin with. Losing Tom Brady, basically the GOAT, that was tough. He comes in 2020 wins us a Super Bowl and wins us basically two straight division titles, and so it was really nice. The first year he was there, we actually were a wild card. So, but the media really had low expectations for this team. They actually started out 3-1 at one point, and then really kind of hit a shitty streak. Essentially, they went I think it was 1-6. They were 4-7 at one point during the season, and then I think they won 5 of their last 6. So I mean, they won the division again, which was really nice. Baker Mayfield comes in on a 1-year deal, really prove it deal, and really outperformed everybody's expectations.
I think he proved it. You know what I mean?
Oh, he absolutely did. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely proved it. I mean, he threw for the most yards, touchdowns, and one of the lower interception seasons of his career. So it really helped. But I mean, I won't say that they really snuck into the playoffs. I mean, I know that the NFC South was really a down division, but a division win's a division win. So, they get the home playoff game against a struggling Eagles team, which was crazy to think because they were 10-1 at one time. Mm-hmm. But they really, I mean, for a 5 seed, they were not playing very well. They really handled the Eagles in the wild card weekend at home. And I really thought they had a shot against Detroit. I feel great about the whole Detroit story about having the first playoff win in 32 years, and it's great, but they got beat by the better team, and that's really all that it was.
And Detroit is really hot right now. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to comprehend kind of like the emotions they're playing on right now, coming off of especially that first playoff win that they got in 32 years, and just how electric Detroit was for that team and continues to be. And it is kind of cool that they got to see a win in their last game of the season before they go onto the NFC Championship game. But Detroit's riding a hot streak. Jared Goff's playing as good as anybody is right now, and
you got that right.
They just kind of ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw, but like you said, they had a shot in the last drive of the game there. I wasn't really convinced on them going for 2. I understand why you make it like a 5-point game, and I don't get why they went for it specifically. I understand. I just don't get that decision at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, neither did I. I mean, the announcers were saying on on the game that that if you make that 2 point conversion and it cuts the lead to 6, I believe it
Hmm.
was, because if they kicked the field goal, it would have been 7.
Okay, yeah.
So you cut the lead to 6. If you get a turnover or you get you get the downs and you get the ball back, and then you got a chance to win the game in regulation with just an extra point. So I mean, I see the understanding, but I mean, Tampa finally has a field goal kicker now, so pretty automatic from for the extra point. So I'd rather knowing how Detroit was playing and has played, especially on their emotions. I kick the field goal there, to be honest with you. And if you get a chance, great. You have the extra point to tie it and go into overtime. Anything can happen at that point. But they went for the 2, and they could have called a pass interference there, but they didn't, and they ended up losing by 8. So is what
And
it
I
is.
think I think that's also a little bit of the story of the playoffs too. Is that, the refs are kind of letting the teams play. There was like low numbers of penalties from what I could see. Not a whole lot in the Detroit and Tampa Bay game. There wasn't a lot in the Buffalo and Kansas City game either. I mean, I think there was 7 total penalties for the entire game. So I
Wow.
mean, refs are kind of letting them play, and it's tough to make that call in that situation. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
go back to the Saints game and the Rams game. I mean, you're not going to
I
call
get
pass
that.
interference in the last like 35 seconds of the game or whatever. If it's like a crucial time, it's like make the play.
Yeah,
It's
especially in
kind
the
of what they have
playoffs.
to
Now,
do.
if it's like game 6 of the season or something, maybe I get it. But division
Hmm.
round of playoffs, I understand you play, and as the saying goes, players make plays. So I think Mike Evans really could have caught that, or at least maybe leaned in
Hmm.
a little bit more to kind of draw that penalty because the guy's back was completely to him. So I digress. It could have
With Mike
been,
Evans is
but
tough. With Mike Evans, that call's tough though because he's so big and strong. You know what I mean? It's like he's kind of expected to kind of fight through a lot of that stuff, and he kind of didn't kind of go to the ball. He kind of let the ball come to him, and
yeah,
I think he didn't make it easy for the refs to throw the flag there. You know what I mean?
he did. No, I get it, but I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where yeah, he could have maybe made a little bit more of an attempt to make it look like it, but it didn't happen, and they had their chance. And first play of that drive, Mayfield throws the interception, and that's it.
So do you? I mean, I'm sure as a Bucks fan, you want this to happen. Is Mike Evans back next season?
It's kind of like you had said in our conversation previous to the pod today. Is I think one is back if the other is, if that makes sense. So, I mean,
Mm.
if they bring back Baker Mayfield, I think their opportunity to re-sign Evans goes from 10% or less without him
Hmm.
to 80% with him. I mean, they had great years. I don't want to say it was a career year for Mayfield, but it was a damn close. And
I
I
mean,
think
he
this
had.
is
I
the
think he had more yards than Brady did as a Buck ever did.
it was close if it was because I know he threw for over 4,000 yards. That's the most I think he's thrown for in his career or in a year in his career.
Hmm.
I think I think it was 31 touchdowns, or might have even been 32. But he had just over 10 maybe interceptions. He didn't have very many, which was great.
Hmm.
And that's really I think that was really kind of the key to the Bucks season. Even though it was barely over 500, it was a very huge key to their success. But yeah, I think if Mayfield resigns, then I think Evans is a very good possibility. Evans is back. If he doesn't, it might make it more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as a wide receiver, you want to know who's throwing you the ball, right? You,
Absolutely.
you, you, especially a top end guy like Mike Evans, he's gonna want to know like what your plan is in place and what kind of your offense is about and who's gonna be
And he
throwing him the
deserves
ball.
that.
Yeah,
He
absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
deserves that.
for sure. I mean, and and that's kind of why some players have gravitated towards the teams like Buffalo and Kansas City, which we can talk about next. Um, those two guys, they put on a show. Mahomes and Josh Allen, they were unbelievable on Sunday night. I mean, I know you said you didn't really watch a whole lot of it, but Josh Allen showed me a lot. Yeah, again, his playoff record is still took a hit. That guy can't catch a break in
Yes.
the playoffs, especially against Kansas City. But I mean,
Well, considering they've
he
played
was
each other they played each other. I think now, what is this? The third time in 5 years?
Yeah, and he's lost every time to Pat Mahomes.
Exactly.
And you know what? This was his strongest performance though against Kansas City. I'll say that he did kind of show up. It wasn't like the Josh Allen that kind of got um, shown up by Patrick Mahomes and the other times, which it's easy to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that Patrick Mahomes doesn't show a lot of quarterbacks up, but Josh Allen held his own. He was really big in the run game. He used his legs and his big ass body to his advantage, and he kind of controlled the game. And Buffalo had a game plan coming in. They said we might not be able to stop Patrick Mahomes. We can limit the amount of time he has the ball. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes doesn't need a whole lot of time.
that's right. I mean, just looking at the stats, like he had 12 carries for 72 yards and he had 2 touchdowns, but then
Yeah.
he was 26 of 39 for only 186 yards passing and a passing touchdown. So, I mean, I think that says a lot about Kansas City's defense too.
It sure does. And Josh Allen didn't have to do a lot, but their game plan coming in was we're going to pound the football, we're going to take a lot of time off the clock, and we're just going to like limit how much time Pat Mahomes has the ball. Again, unfortunately, he does not need a whole lot of time. They had
You're
scoring
right.
drives where it was like Buffalo had like an 8 minute and 30-second drive, and they scored a touchdown. Then Pat Mahomes goes and scores in like 2 minutes. It's one of those things where it's like you're trying your best to limit the damage there, but that guy there, you can't say enough about Pat Mahomes. He's
Yeah, and
unbelievable.
it's funny. It's funny that you say that because I was watching a video the other day where this guy was trying to make his point to Patrick Mahomes possibly being the MVP of the league, and
Yeah,
he had I forget the stats that he had come up with, but I think they had said that Mahomes had 13 or 15 interceptions or something, but
I think
like
it's 14.
a
Yeah.
big but a big portion of them were on tipped passes. So
Hmm.
you cut those tipped passes, make them incompletions, and you go from 14 interceptions to I think he said like 9, 8 or 9.
Hmm.
And or even if they are completions, then you add those on top of the yards that he already had. And just I mean, yeah, he's playing with Rice at receiver, he's playing
Hmm.
with Pacheco at running back. I mean, he's not playing with your Tyreek Hill. I mean, he had Kelsey for most of the season, but I mean, the guy was. I don't want to call the wide receiver group of the Chiefs garbage, but I mean, in comparison to previous years, they're a lot less exciting per se than what they have been.
Well, what's crazy about it too is that I kind of took a look again at some of their previous years, and besides Tyreek Hill, they didn't have a whole lot of firepower, right? They're of course Tyreek Hill is a gigantic weapon. He is, but
Hmm.
the year after Tyreek Hill leaves, which was last year, Patrick Mahomes threw for the most yards he's ever thrown for, and I can't name one single wide receiver he had last year.
That's kind of the point. Is
Yeah, yeah.
who does he really have to throw to other than Kelsey, and yet here he's still putting up Mahomes numbers, which is crazy.
Yeah, he threw for 4,100 yards this year, and that's a down year.
Yeah,
So, everyone's
it
looking
makes you
at Pat
think.
Mahomes like it does make you think a little bit. The guy throws for like 4,200 yards and 26 touchdowns to like 13 or 14 interceptions. They're like, man, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? It's like, I mean, and again, I get the argument for Lamar. He's a very dynamic playmaker. I don't think he's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I will never think that. Lamar has like
Yeah,
3,600 passing yards this season. And if Pat Mahomes had 3,600 passing yards, we were like, Pat's hurt. Something's wrong with Pat
yeah,
Mahomes. He's going,
something's wrong. Yep.
So
But I
it'll be
also think I
fun.
mean they do play two different types of games. I mean with Baltimore, their mo is really in the rush game. Like no matter how many, and it's like I don't know what it is about those running backs that it's like you go to Baltimore and it's like Dobbins has been hurt all year.
Mm,
Um, I, I want who was the other Ravens running back that was there? Was it last year, or year before, behind Dobbins, and he got hurt?
Gus Edwards.
Um, that's okay. Yeah, Edwards, and he was hurt. It's like these guys, their mo really is to run the football, and the fact that he even has anywhere close to 4,000 yards passing, which is crazy. I mean, because Lamar's going to get his rush yards, that.
Yeah,
So
but I think though, but you have to think as well. Like is that offense predicated on the run simply because Lamar is just a superior runner, which he is? I can't say anything. Or are they limited in his passing ability? That's kind of what I wonder as well, because the guy can run the football. There's no question about that. There's no question that if you give that guy a seam, he's going to take it and he's going to go for 40. You know, I've always looked at Lamar as he can't make the tougher throws. That you see guys, and again, he's a league MVP, so it's fair to make this comparison. He's not making the same throws that like an Aaron Rodgers will make, or a Josh Allen will make, or a Pat Mahomes will make. They're not making the runs that he is, but he's a quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it
Eventually,
comes to that Zay Flowers play just a couple of weeks ago. One of the Miami Dolphins players had mentioned how crazy it was. He had literally caught the ball and had the ball in his hands, going back to pass, and it looked like he was going to throw the ball left-handed. Literally turns his shoulders and flings it 30 yards down the field to Zay Jones, who's wide open. And I mean, I get it, he's wide open, but I think Lamar Jackson's passing ability is a little bit over or underrated. Is he a Patrick Mahomes when it comes to passing? No, I don't think so. No,
not a lot of
absolutely not.
people are.
But exactly, not a lot of people are. But I think he needs to get a little bit more credit where it's due, because that's not what Lamar Jackson does. You think Lamar Jackson, you think his rushing ability. That's it. I
Absolutely.
mean, you're not thinking about his passing ability, and I don't want to say that it hinders him because, like you said, he's a league MVP. I think that, like you said, it's more predicated on the run itself. That's just the type of game plan that they have, and the fact that he does throw for 200 or 300 yards. Hey, that just makes him even more dangerous.
And again, I might be, because I mean, I grew up in the era of like Peyton, Tom, and then now like leading into
You're
like
pure
Mahomes.
passers.
100%, right? And the reason I say that is because, again, could Lamar break the mold this year? Absolutely. He could go and he could beat Kansas City and he can go and win the Super Bowl. We have never seen a quarterback like Lamar Jackson win a Super Bowl. Mike Vick never won a Super Bowl. Randall Cunningham never won a Super Bowl. Nobody with their skill set has won a Super Bowl in that type of offense, right? Because eventually you're tasked with making the toughest throws in the toughest situations. And until like I see him do that, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, even Joe Burrow. Burrow had a rough year this year. I get it, but I think he was hurt all season, and eventually
Yeah,
just that wrist just popped and it was over. Um,
yeah.
but we saw when he made that run to the Super Bowl, the guy was dropping dimes all over the field. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
just think it takes that type of you know pocket presence and decision making and ability to make tough throws to kind of put your team over the top. Again, he could
And
break that mold this year very easily. I 100% get that. But until
I get
that
it.
happens, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then we're on to the AFC and NFC Championship game. So you've got now
Yes.
Kansas City versus Baltimore. You've
Yeah.
got San Francisco versus Detroit. The Cinderella of the ball per se.
Pretty much, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, so it's tough because Detroit's really riding high right now, right? But you're
They've
taking
had
them out
two
of the
home
motor.
games.
Yeah, you're taking them out of the Motor City. You're not going to have that energy of the crowd. You're not going to have that. And you got to go up against Christian McCaffrey and that defense from San Francisco and Debo Samuel and Brock Purdy, who's playing a very good quarterback right now. It is tough for me to say that Detroit would win against San Francisco, but if they capture some of that magic that they've had in Detroit for the past 2 weeks, it is going to be a tough game. You know what I mean?
It all starts with their rush defense, plain and simple.
100%. If you can limit Christian McCaffrey, you have a good shot. Good luck though.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you can stop him on the ground, you still got to try to stop him in the pass game. And
It's
not to say
tough.
that not to say that their defense isn't. I mean, their defense is pretty stout. They really have to apply a lot of pressure to Purdy, make
Mm-hmm.
him beat you, not just with his arms. I mean, if you have, that's going to be kind of their key. I think is they're going to have to make Brock Purdy beat them with his feet, because if you can limit McCaffrey, and by limit I don't mean you know 98 yards rushing on 17 carries. I'm talking under 75 yards at most. If you can handle him that much and still even give him maybe, I don't know, 50 yards in the air or something, you've really got to make Brock Purdy beat you. That's where it starts.
And that's tough to do, right? Because Christian McCaffrey is such a dynamic player. Like you
And I
said,
get they have Debo and Ayuk and everything too, and Kittle. So it's going to be tough, but it starts with McCaffrey and Purdy 1 and 2.
and that's the thing about San Francisco is like you have Kittle, who's of the same ilk as Travis Kelce, where they're 1 and 2 in the league right now in terms of tight ends. And Kittle, I think he's a better run blocker than Kelce is, but Kelsey's a little more dynamic in the pass game. But they're
I agree.
both. I mean, I'll take either one of them on my team for sure. Um, there's no question about that. And it just kind of starts from McCaffrey up to and they also have one of the best blindside blockers of all time in Trent Williams there. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough to get past that dude. But yeah, McCaffrey, man, he is the anytime touchdown god when it comes to like FanDuel and DraftKings. So I think he had, was it like 15 or 16 straight games or something like that where he scored a touchdown?
At least one touchdown. Yeah, it was crazy.
It was nuts. But like you said, if you put it in Brock Purdy's hands, you have a better shot than if you kind of say let McCaffrey get what he wants and then try to stop everybody else. That's not a good idea.
Absolutely.
On the other side, the AFC. This is the game I'm looking forward to the most because, like the two guys we just talked about, we have Mahomes against Lamar Jackson, and this head-to-head matchup couldn't be more diametrically opposed in terms of like how they play the game. Like you said, Lamar is a dynamic runner. He runs the offense through the triple option, the RPOs, and and if you give him a seam, he's going to take it for 40 to 60 yards, and you're not going to be able to catch that guy. Yep. And then on the other side, you got Mahomes, who if you blitz that guy and he breaks the pocket, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? You would think if a guy's under duress like Mahomes, like we would need to put pressure on the quarterback. No, you don't want to put pressure on him. He'll break the pocket. He'll find a dude 35 yards down the field, and he's going to sling it off his back foot and hit him in the chest.
I've seen him do it before. I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the pass might have been incomplete in the Super Bowl against Tampa, but that's how he did that. I still to this day have no clue.
He's unbelievable.
How he was able,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, how he was able to throw it literally at a 90-degree angle, like just like this. It was ridiculous.
And he hit the dude in the face mask. The guy dropped it.
He did. That's what I'm saying. And it's funny because I think the fact that this is actually the first AFC Championship game that Patrick Mahomes has played on a opposing field. Like he's not playing at Arrowhead. This is his first road game on the AFC as an AFC or like for the AFC Championship game. So I'm really intrigued to see how he handles that. I mean, I know it's just like any road game, but it isn't because it's the AFC Championship game, and this is the first time you're on the road for this game. I'm intrigued to see how he and the Chiefs play.
I mean, I could argue though that like his game this last weekend was in a more hostile environment than Baltimore. I think Bills Mafia is a little more notorious for being a hostile environment than Baltimore is. Don't get me wrong, Baltimore is going to bring the heat, but Bills Mafia has a reputation for a reason. Those dudes jump through tables for the game, and that's just part of it.
And do I think that has a part of it? Yes, but Bills Mafia isn't on the field, and that Baltimore defense is. That Baltimore defense is solid. I mean, they made C.J. Stroud look like a kid. They made him look like a rookie.
He is.
That's what I'm saying. They made him look like the rookie that he is.
Good luck doing that with Pat Mahomes, though. You know what I mean? I think we're going to be in for a similar type of game plan that Buffalo had. I think Baltimore is going to predicate the run game. They're going to limit the amount of time that Pat Mahomes has the football, and if they can stop him a couple of times, we're in good shape. But again, the guy needs 13 seconds to score a touchdown. That's all he needed to score from from the 15-yard line. He scored in 15 seconds.
Yep, it's crazy how quickly he can score. At any time, at any point. So what do you think? What do you got prediction wise?
Prediction wise, you know what? I have friends that are Baltimore fans, and this is going to be fun. So I'll go ahead and go Kansas City, and I'm just going to go with the favorite here. I'm going to go San Francisco.
Okay, so you got Chiefs, Niners in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going against the conspiracy of the Super Bowl logo with it being purple and red.
So I no, and I got something to say about that too. So there was that picture that went around that like, hey, Reba McEntire's performing at the Super Bowl featuring the Baltimore Ravens and San Francisco Giants. If you look, that came out Saturday, right? I think whoever put that graphic together
How
got
about the
confused.
49ers?
Or yeah, the 49ers in Baltimore, right? I think whoever made that graphic got confused because it came out Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And what two games played on Saturday?
Yeah, I
Baltimore
get
and
it.
San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they got confused that was the NFC and the AFC Championship game, and that's going to be the Super Bowl, right? I don't see a conspiracy here. I think someone got confused and they messed up. That's all it is.
But I could see where they're coming from because, 3 of the last Super Bowl logos have featured those color schemes of the teams that were in the Super Bowl. And
Mm-hmm.
ironically, the team that actually had the least amount of color in said logo actually
Mm-hmm.
won the Super Bowl.
Where
If
is
you
the Super
get
Bowl played this year?
It's in Vegas.
Okay. I was trying to think of like reasons why it could be those specific colors. Like if it was, back in Tampa again, it could be like the maroon, or the red and gold or whatever they have, or
Mm-hmm.
the pewter or whatever they call it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I can understand that. Yes, but it's been they actually changed it. They had an original Super Bowl logo, and then
mhm.
a couple weeks after they had revealed it or something that they had actually changed the colors. But it's predominantly purple, if I'm not mistaken, from the logo.
See, and if it was in New Orleans, I could have understood that too, because like you have like the Mardi Gras purple and that
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, man. I don't subscribe to any of the conspiracy theories in football or any in pro sports that it's all rigged and this, that, and the other. I
I
tend to
don't
think
either,
that
but it's interesting to really now if Kansas City would have or does end up winning,
mhm,
or even if Detroit ends up winning. I mean,
yeah.
there's your proof. But it is interesting to see that those two colors are involved, and yet those two teams are still in it.
Yeah, but so what was it? Red and purple, you said?
Red and purple. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only one left out there is Detroit then, right? Because I mean, like there's purple and then like the Niners and the Chiefs both
Yeah.
have red too. So I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't check out with me. That's all I got.
So, all
So
right. So you
don't
went
leave me
Kansas
hanging here.
City.
Yeah. What's your predictions here,
So
buddy?
you went Kansas City and San Francisco.
I did.
Um, Personally, emotionally, I would love to see Detroit. Just for the shits and giggles for that city, for that organization.
Man, I don't do any sentimental shit in sports, man. You know me.
I know that's part of why but you're a Yankees fan, so there's no sentimental. It is what it is, and if it's not, it's not. But we've had that conversation. But
Yes.
but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Detroit get to the Super Bowl. I mean, you have a team that just over a decade ago was an 0-16 team.
Oh, by the way, I saw a hilarious graphic now that you say that. The Detroit Lions have had a winless season in this century, and they've still made it to the NFC Championship before Dallas.
Before Dallas. I did see that. Oh, them poor boys. Them
Oh
poor
man,
boys.
they
Um,
what a disappointment the Cowboys are. Right, we can both
yeah.
agree that is a shitty thing to
And I
happen.
think
Oh my
that's
god.
an episode in itself right there. But yeah, so I would like to see Detroit in the Super Bowl just to kind of muck, everybody's predictions and the whole conspiracy theory to the colors of
Mhm.
the Super Bowl logo. Um, but I honestly don't see them getting past San Francisco. I think San Francisco's
It's
offense is just too strong. Um, Kyle Shanahan has itself a juggernaut over there, and the only team that's really going to beat the 49ers is the 49ers. And
Mm-hmm.
even then, I still think they beat them. I say 34-17 49ers.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
In the AFC, I'm an Orioles fan, and I know you would think I would root for Baltimore. Um, and I don't like the Chiefs.
I
I'm
see a
sorry to
butt
my.
coming here.
Well, I'm going to give both. I don't really like the Ravens, even though I'm an Orioles fan. They're a Baltimore City team. So, but I don't like the Chiefs either. And as I was saying, I'm sorry to my family, in Colorado, who are Chiefs fans. I'm going Baltimore. I'm just to the point
Okay.
where I'm to the point where I'm sick and tired of seeing Kansas City in this AFC Championship game and or Super Bowl. Um, just it's getting old. I want to see something different. So
And,
I am going to
you know,
go with Baltimore and San Francisco.
okay. See, and that, so what you just said there, like that, it's weird because that never bothers me, right? If they're the best team, they're the best team. That's how I've always felt. Um, and I'll say the same thing with Detroit, right? The sentimental pick, like, oh, for the city, this, that, and the other. If they're the best team, they deserve to be there, right? That's just kind of what it boils down in my eyes. Like, sure, they haven't had a winning season or like a playoff win since 1992, but be better. That's I mean, that's all I got, right? It's if they're the best team, then they'll earn it there, and they'll have deserved it. That's just kind of where I'm at.
And I don't disagree. But me, I'm the sentimental type. I like the feel good story. You know, I don't necessarily like the stories of when somebody or some um, major player or whatever it may be of a team like passes away or something, and
Mm-hmm.
they're playing for that guy or girl or whatever it may be. I don't think that they should automatically get to the World Series or the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup or whatever it
Yeah,
may be. Um, but I can see how they'd be playing a little bit more um, inspired, I guess is the word. So
yeah, I see that
I
part of it, but I mean, if you're the best team, you deserve to be there. Like, and
I agree.
if that's Kansas City, 6 or 7 years in a row, then it's Kansas City 6 or 7 years in a row. And the difference between Kansas City and a lot of teams is that they've had continuity, right? Andy Reid's been there all 7 years. Pat Mahomes has been there all 7 years. Travis Kelsey's been there all 7 years. They've mostly kept the same team together. That's why they're successful, right? Not a lot of teams can say that.
Oh, I don't
And
disagree.
and I just think that's kind of the reason why I don't mind seeing teams the same teams over and over again, because if they're the best team, then they're the best team. It's just flat out, that's how it is for me. And we'll see how it goes, if they are the best team or not. We'll see how it plays out.
Yep. So like I said, I've got San Francisco and Baltimore. I think that is kind of the Super Bowl that people want to see. I mean, both one seeds in their respective conferences. I think that Baltimore defense against that San Francisco offense,
Mm-hmm.
to see that again, because they just played 4 or 5 weeks ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, and Baltimore came up with the win. I'm sure San Francisco's kind of want to play for revenge, um, and I think they could get it. And if I have to make a Super Bowl pick right now, it'd be really tough to go against those 49ers. And I know a few of my friends, my friends Andy and Timmy and Chris and Nathan and my other friends that are 49ers fans that I might not be able to think of right now. I'm sure they'll be happy to know that I'd pick the 49ers, but I think that, and their defense is no slouch either.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a good game, but I think San Francisco will be your eventual Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's I have friends that are Baltimore fans. I mean, Ken and my buddy Dave, who's I go back and forth all the time. A lot of the time, I'm just ribbing him, because it's fun
Yeah.
about Lamar. Um, I partly mean what I say, and also sometimes I just kind of get to see his reaction. So that's always
Hmm.
fun. Uh, but it's if I were to pick with my picks, right? With San Francisco and Kansas City, I'd tend to agree with you because I think that Kansas City has shown that they're a little vulnerable. They haven't been as high powered as they have been, but boy, it'd be a fun game to watch. It would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either or.
Yeah, I think if I think the more aesthetically pleasing game would be Kansas City against San Francisco because I think it'd be a shootout and it'd be fun to see. The battle of the two best tight ends, Kelsey and Kittle. That'd be fun
Hmm.
to watch. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think you can't go wrong with any of the matchups here. It'd be all of them will be with good games, but I think for if you want offense, you want to see Kansas City against San Francisco. Um, if you want to see kind of a battle of like opposites, but a little bit similar, it's going to be San Francisco and Baltimore because of their dynamic run games. With Lamar and then with Christian McCaffrey and I mean Detroit, they're the sentimental pick, obviously, and that city. I don't know if we'd have Detroit anymore if they won the Super Bowl. So um,
So what you're saying is you're not giving Detroit the slightest bit of a chance.
they have a shot, right? Anytime you're playing on those high emotions, even if you can bottle that and bring it with you somehow, you have a chance. When two teams play a sports game, everybody has a chance to win, right? So, but just the odds are stacked against them. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I got you.
So, and we talked earlier, kind of shifting gears here, and
Wait,
we kind
hold
of
on now. Who's your pick? Don't you
who's my
go
pick?
hanging. Yeah,
Uh,
who's your Super Bowl
uh,
champion?
I think I think I would go with San Francisco at this point. I have to see how the next weekend plays out. I need to see how either both or all four teams respond to each other because you kind of gauge it on that, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's like what happened last weekend. So I kind of have to gauge it off of that. But if I'm picking right now, I think San Francisco is playing the best ball.
I don't disagree. I mean, like I said, that's why I picked Baltimore and San Francisco is because I think they are the two top teams. Not
Mm-hmm.
only because they were, but they are really playing the best ball right now of the four teams out there.
And I think they've beat the best team. The Packers were super hot coming in. Jordan Love was playing unbelievable, and they kind of still pulled out that win. So yeah, San Francisco looks really good.
I don't disagree. So I had to make sure you made your pick because I'm
No,
like, you know what,
yeah,
I made mine. I'm gonna make him make his.
it's fine. It's fine. I thought I answered it to begin with, but I can reiterate. I'll
My
stick
my
with San
fault then. My
Fran,
fault.
and we can revisit this next week after we've watched um, the games and kind of see how it plays out because then we can kind of retool it. If I'm wrong about Kansas City and Baltimore makes it in, my pick might be a little different. So we'll see.
All right, so then let's transition to that baseball story you were going to go with.
Yeah, man. So 2 weeks away, man. Pitchers and catchers report to spring training. It's
Ah,
already here, man.
I love it. I
It's here.
absolutely love it.
I mean, we still have like 18 top end free agents out there yet to sign, but yeah, we're here. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. It's crazy to think how far away it seems like in November when the World Series is over. They think, oh man, we got 4 months to go till baseball starts again, and it's like, oh shit, it's here. Like
yeah,
here it
two
is.
weeks, man. Yeah, hey, they're about to go to Florida, so
Yeah.
or Arizona or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, so I kind of wanted to bring it in to kind of talk like what obviously Baltimore did not have the ending to the season that everybody in Baltimore kind of wanted them to have, and you know my thoughts on how the Yankee season went. So I kind of want to bounce off of each other like what we're thinking of going into this season and what your expectations kind of are, and this can always change depending on what happens in spring training. People always go down, unfortunately, and you know we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes. But go ahead.
Well, and I'll kind of preface this with, I was a little wrong last season
Mm-hmm.
with how the Orioles really performed. It's not that I didn't think that they would do well. It's just after a finally another winning season, which was great. I mean, they were in it up until the last week of the season. They were in the wild card race, in 2022. So that was really something to kind of hang our hats on, which was great. But then coming into last season, thinking, oh, I'm thinking they're going to be a third or fourth place team in the American League East, just based on how young they still were. Not that it was a fluke of a season, but just didn't think that team would really turn that quickly to really playing as well as they did. So I don't want to say that I want to take put my foot in my mouth, but I didn't think that they would win the division. I didn't think they'd win 100 games, but I'm glad they did. Coming into this season, I'm a little disappointed with the lack of necessarily like moves that upper management has made, but you can't really. And that's kind of the thing is they that I've seen on like community boards and things like that is Mike Elias of the Orioles just not wanting to mess with the chemistry of what last year's team has or was, but it also you see that the other teams in the division and the league itself are improving and getting better. So if
If you're
you
not
don't
getting
get
better, you're getting
better,
worse.
exactly, and if you're not getting better, you're going to be stuck behind. And the Orioles are a great team. There's a lot of great teams in the division. Even your Yankees, yes, who has done, more than the Orioles have. Do I think the Orioles can win the division again? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if they're playing, the right kind of ball at the right time. They've got their youngsters who are going to be another year old, or a year older, a year wiser, and I think that they could still improve in their rotation. But their bullpen and their rotation is really what they need to focus on based off of their playoff series. That's where I see the Orioles right now is they need to really focus on their rotation, solidify that bullpen. Their offense is going to be fine,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's where they need to improve right now.
No, yeah, going into last season, I think we had this conversation, and like you said, you felt that the Orioles are like a third or like a middle of the AL East, right, finishing team, and as much as it pained me, I was like, listen, man, they showed a lot. I think they're at least going to be in second place at the very least. I was wrong about the Yankees. I figured whenever so they had like a crazy run the 2022, right? They were on pace to win like 126 games at some point, and they obviously fell apart. um their pitching really let them down, and I mean offense let them down against Houston in that series. They got smoked, but the Orioles ended the season hot. They looked good. They had a few um I don't want to say like under the radar moves, but I mean, like they added a few things to what they needed, and of course, my gripes about that ballpark. They've made every pitcher look good in that ballpark.
For the last 2 years, yes.
Yeah, because they made left field 487 feet and 35 feet high.
But I
That's
mean, I think
why.
that's what they needed. That though, like that, I think that was kind of the draw. Is they wanted to bring in big names, which they still haven't. Which that's kind of my gripe. Is they make these updates to the field and to the stadium itself to want people to come in to play there, and who have they brought in?
You spend the money on the ballpark, spend it on a player. How about that? You know what I mean. That's always my thing. It's like they're like the first team I've ever seen that has made their ballpark impossible for right-handed hitters. Um, but anyway, so like going into this past season, I knew Baltimore was going to be really good. I didn't know how good, but I knew they were going to win 90 plus. And in the AL East, if you're in like the 90 to like 100 win range, you have a really good shot to win the division.
Win the
Unfortunately,
division, yes.
yeah. And unfortunately, the one season, I think it was like 21 or something, like they had like three teams that win 100 games. So like, because like I think Tampa won 100, New York won 100, and Boston won 100 at one point. They were all like 103, 104, and like 100 wins or something. It was insane. But no, yeah, I knew Baltimore was going to be good, and they showed a lot of stuff of talent, right? And of course, Adley Rutschman's going to only get better. And that guy, he's turned into. Remember how I told you? I said I wasn't ready to give Adley the crown yet. I think he's the best catcher in baseball now. I do think he is.
Okay, so on what like precedents do you think that he is better than JT Realmuto?
I think he's turned it around, or not turned it around, but he's definitely improved his defense. Offensively, they're very comparable, but I think just the other threat of him being a switch hitter is really good. Listen, Real Muto, he hits both arms well. It is what it is. Um, but I think Adley's a little more dynamic in what he can do, and of course, he's tasked with leading that team. You know what I mean? He's at this point he's a veteran. He's a third year guy now. Um, he's the captain there on that team, and I think that they follow his lead, and he's going to be special. He's the guy that you need to pay. He's not going to be a Manny Machado. At least he shouldn't be.
And I think they need to learn from that mistake. I know um, the like your general manager is not the same from when Machado was there. I just hope they don't make that mistake again, to where they don't extend the number one guy of your franchise and then he just up and gone.
Well, they
Now,
they, they chose wrong on that one. It's not that they didn't pay Manny; it's that they paid the wrong guy,
oh, and I
right?
don't disagree with that. I mean, based off of numbers, I mean he deserved a massive contract. It just so happened that Chris Davis, who got paid, $147 million to go and hit under 200, have 200 strikeouts in a season, but yet somehow figured out a way to hit 25 or more bombs every year, which I don't get it.
He
I
didn't that
mean,
last year. That last year was brutal, man. He
no,
he
you're
he
right. It
he
was.
was in like a 0 for 60 slump or some shit like that, right?
It was horrible. Yes.
So, I mean, but like, anyways, going forward, like, I do see Baltimore still being a threat. I do think they've gotten significantly worse, though. And by that, I mean, Baltimore was, and you can kind of correct me in the numbers here, but they only lost like 2 or 3 games that were like one-run games.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I mean, in comparison to, I believe, their 2014 numbers when they won the division last, their
Mhm.
one-run games in that season, I think that they were like, I don't know exactly. It's probably a huge guess here, but I'm saying like they were like 20 plus games over 500 in one-run games, and that
This
was like
year or this past year?
no, that in 2014 when they last won the
Okay.
division. Like I said, I'll have to check those numbers for sure, but it was a massive amount of difference in their win loss from when they last won the division, which was 2014. So to be able to say what their win loss record was last season, it would be a huge and complete out of left field guess.
Uh, well, the reason I say this because, and I think it's relevant, because I know they had a really good record in one-run
Mm-hmm.
games, 1 or 2 run games. They less than 10 losses, I'm pretty sure, in one-run games. What did you guys have last year? You had the most electric closer in baseball last year, not named Josh Hader. He's not there this year.
You're right. He's not. I think what they had was they had the depth, and that's really what they signed last year. With
Mm-hmm.
when they signed Frazier, when they signed or traded for Danny Colomb, um, the bullpen
I
got
can never say
another.
his damn name right. Is it
I know, and I
Colomby
probably
or Colomb or some whatever?
from my understanding, it was Colomb, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably jacked it up either way. But it was really the depth that really helped. The veteran presence, yes, like I said, with Frazier coming in, who even though he only hit about 220, I mean, he still come up with some big hits when they needed him
I
and
mean, he's
played
better
some
than Richie
great
Martin.
defense. Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. Um, but I think that's what it was, and the fact that you can have a Gold Glove winning third baseman on your bench
Mm-hmm.
when you've got that option, you're going to be in good shape. Urias was and is a Gold Glove type of player, and he's literally on our bench. And and he can come in and he can hit 260 or 270 when he's playing. So I think that was really Baltimore's big thing. And to kind of take of what you were saying with the Yankees, and just as well as a lot of people that we talk to know, absolutely despise the Yankees. I despise the mentality that Yankees fans have, but I understand because if it's if you're not first, you're last, right? Like Ricky Bobby says,
Pretty much.
So I understand that point. Um, and it's crazy to me that a team with such talent, and I don't understand how this doesn't piss you off even more. That the fact that this team has so much talent, you've got your Garrett Cole, you've got your
Hmm.
your Nestor Cortez, you've got, and there's two guys on your starters.
Former
Then
Oriole,
you've
by the
got
way.
the Yes, that is correct, and who threw garbage and then had to return them. But anyway, then you've got your decent bullpen minus the the subtractions that from this year. You've got your Aaron Judge, you've got your LeMahieu, you've got your Torres, you've got even Stanton, who hasn't been Stanton-esque the last couple of years. Like, how does that not frustrate the ever-loving shit out of you that you've got this huge payroll of a team with this massive amount of talent, and you're at 82-80?
Oh no, it made me extremely frustrated. Like text messages do not convey the emotion that I was sending you at those moments. It was extremely frustrating. It was extremely maddening. Um, you
So hold
signed
that thought
for
real quick. Let me ask you this, and then we've kind of come to this, and before I forget, and I'm sorry to cut you off,
yeah, you're good.
but at what point do you start to really think this isn't a team problem? I mean, I get you have had X amount of players on the disabled list, or sorry, the injured list now that they call it that.
An
Like,
uncountable amount, by the way.
and you're right. So okay, so at that point, does the success or failure of this team still ride on Aaron Boone?
No, I've thought a lot about that, and I think at a certain point when you're in Major League Baseball, especially in a market in a team like the Yankees, right? I think the manager only does so much. I think the manager, I think Aaron Boone makes bullpen decisions. I think he makes some lineup decisions, and he makes, some, I guess, other decisions, and he has his team's back. That's one thing I could say about Aaron Boone. Ultimately, the players have to play, right? Aaron Boone can't make Giancarlo Stanton not strike out 4 times a game. Aaron Boone can't make Anthony Rizzo not get a concussion and be garbage for 2 months where they don't diagnose his concussion, right? He's not responsible for that. The players have to play. And what we've seen the past since since 2017, when we were one win away from the World Series against that Houston Astros team that cheated and whatever, but that's another discussion for another day. They've made these additions, right? You were one game win away from the Super Bowl, the World Series, and you go out and you get the reigning NL MVP Giancarlo Stanton, and you bring him in, and I don't want to say it was unsuccessful, but it wasn't a repeat of that season, right? It's tough to repeat 59 home runs. I get it. But he had 38, and he had maybe 100 RBIs that year. Serviceable, right? That's a good season
Mm-hmm.
for most
That
guys.
I mean
But
that could be MVP numbers right there for a lot of people.
but when you couple that with, they didn't have a whole lot of depth on that team in 18. They got beat, but handedly by Boston that year. Um, and then going into 2019, same thing. They kind of made a few moves here and there. They didn't really change it up a whole lot. And you know what, man? I just think at a certain point, the players need to be held more accountable than they are. I think they've had to, plug holes where, guys have gotten injured. They've had so many injuries, man. 2019 was a year where they broke the record for the most players spending time on the injured list. That was the year I think Giancarlo Stanton played, I don't know, 30 games, if that. And then of course 2020 happens, COVID year, really weird year. Giancarlo Stanton catches fire in the postseason, and they get beat by a better Rays team. And then, it's just been, for the most part, Houston beats them, right? And eventually, initially, I was pissed off that it was always Houston, right? Because oh, those cheating Astros. And then you kind of realize they're a really good team. They're a really well-run organization. They keep their players. They add guys that they need to, and they just keep chugging along. And kudos to the Astros. And then we get to last year, right? We signed Carlos Rodon because we needed number two, and he was a phenomenal pitcher in 2022. You bring in Carlos Rodon, and he misses 3 months, right? And then Luis Severino misses the first 2 months, and he comes back and he is garbage. He has the worst statistical season for a starting pitcher in Yankees history, and I think one of the top 5 worst seasons in all of MLB history, right? And the bullpen is leaned on too much. They kind of fracture at certain points. Josh Donaldson's god awful. Thank God he's gone. And again, Anthony Rizzo goes through his problems with his concussion, and it's just like it was kind of like a recipe for disaster. Giancarlo Stanton hits less than 200, right? And now we add dynamics to it. You add Juan Soto to the mix. And one of the biggest issues that the Yankees have had is they've been too right-handed. And there were times that their lineup featured 8 right-handed batters. That is not going to get it done in the long run.
You're right.
What I mean?
I do.
It's one of those things where, they haven't been dynamic. They had this thing in their head where, again, you know what? I can't put it on Aaron Boone, but I can put it on upper management at this point, right? Brian Cashman had this idea of what he was going to make a team out to be, and he was wrong. Right? He wanted the Yankees to be. He didn't care about right and left-handed. If you're right-handed, you can hit the opposite field. You're as good as a left-handed batter. No, that's not how it works, Brian. Again, this is me, just being a fan talking about it, but it just seemed like it was a simple solution that you can add dynamics to your lineup. You can go back and forth between right-handed and left-handed and have impact bats from both sides of the plate, and that's a better recipe than having 8 right-handed guys that 7 of them can go to the opposite field because Yankee Stadium has a short porch and right? And it just seems like roster construction hasn't been great, and durability hasn't been great. I think they've went through 3 or 4 different strength and conditioning coaches in the past 3 years. It's just been it. This is the level of frustration that I'm at, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't really said a word in like 4 minutes, and you're just like, I'm letting you go, but this really goes to show, like you said, this is the frustration that you get with, and like you have yet to say, like, okay, you did say you're at this point you're not going to blame Boone more than upper management, but I've heard and seen people get fired for less.
Oh, 100%. In the same organization.
Yeah. Who has such high standards. That's what doesn't make sense to me. Is I'm not calling for his job, but when you've got the players you've got in your organization who has such high expectations every year, and we'll get to this, in probably next week's episode, because I kind of want to delve into a little bit more of, with the Shohei Ohtani signings and the Yamamoto and all of the signings that has happened so far, 1 week out from when pitchers and catchers report. But, that's what my point to you is like, that's why I give you such a hard time and question all the time, is because, you have those high expectations. You get frustrated like you do. At what point do you sit and think front line needs to change? And it hasn't. And the definition of insanity, getting the same, expecting the results to change over and over again, or however it goes, but
doing the same thing over and over again, expecting
different results. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So you know what the definition of insanity is, and yet here you are as an organization. Where does it start? And I think it's there, and that's why I think it concludes to them having the seasons they have, and this is why I feel like the Orioles are going to have far better seasons going forward than the Yankees, but that's just me.
So, and you know what? You have a solid young core, right? You have a solid young core coming after them. I give you this shit all the time, but there is truth in it. It is what happens when you have a top 5 pick for like 6 straight years.
Yes, but in fairness, yes, it does suck to have a top 5 pick in 6 straight seasons. But you could easily not pick the right guy. And that's
Okay.
where Elias has really excelled, is getting
Has
those
he
guys.
has he excelled, or has he just been falling into like five straight drafts where there's like you couldn't miss on any of the top five picks, right?
So doesn't that mean well for that draft then? I mean,
Yeah, it makes the draft class good, but I'm saying like Adley Rutschman, you couldn't miss. Even if you take Bobby Witt, who was the other rumor number one pick, he's an all star, right? You know what I mean? Like you couldn't miss in that one. Jackson Holiday was the far and away top prospect in all of baseball at that point, or like draft prospect. You get
and
it.
see, I disagree. I didn't think that they would take Holiday. I thought they were going to go Jones Jr. That's where I thought they would go.
Well, Arizona's regretting that one, by the way. He's not been great in the minors there.
You've got time.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, he hasn't had the of course, like the ascension that Jackson Holiday has. But so again, like to kind of go back to it, he's kind of fallen into a few drafts where like you just couldn't miss with any of your picks. Like you take any of this pool of like 10 players that go in the top five, or yeah, 10 players go in the top five, 10 players go in the top 10, and like all of them are in the majors right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're all contributing. So um, it's one of those things where I do give him credit that he has instilled a different culture there in Baltimore. Um, he's put in places, or put people in places. The biggest thing he's contributed to, man, is their international scouting, and then like their minor league development.
Oh, I definitely agree to that. Yes.
I think that's been his biggest contribution, because before, I think when he said it, he got in there, like some of like their analytics and some of their scouting departments were like prehistoric at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it was not fun.
I mean, it's one of the first articles I read is spring training after Elias got there was like, look at the updated stuff that they have.
Ooh, shiny and
It's
pretty.
like, oh hey, they have analytics now. Check this out.
So to kind of go back to the very beginning of this conversation, of you asked me like what my expectations were for the
Mm-hmm.
Yankees, and trying to not to get too far off the beaten path with the Aaron Boone talk. What are your expectations for now this Yankees team? Who, I mean, have they subtracted enough or added enough to
I
really do
think
anything this year?
I think Juan Soto is a gigantic ad, and I'll tell you why. I mean, obviously it's Juan Soto, right? Deeper into that, he's a left-handed bat. He's probably the best left-handed bat besides Shohei Ohtani that was available and potentially in the league, right? Um,
Playing 82 of his games where the right field fence is one of, if not the shortest in Major League Baseball.
Correct, and where he's historically hit very well. I think he hits over 400 at Yankee Stadium. Obviously, that's going to change because he's going to play more games there. But in his time visiting there with like the Nationals and then the San Diego, he is mashed at Yankee Stadium. Um, so you're adding him into a lineup where you can kind of either protect him or protect Aaron Judge. My thought with that is that you put him behind Aaron Judge. Juan Soto is a little better with his eye than Aaron Judge is, so he can kind of handle more of like a bad pitching than Judge can, and he also doesn't get screwed on some of the low strikes that Aaron Judge does. I cannot stand that. He is 6'8", my man, and you are calling stuff at his shins. So it is what it is. But you add him to a lineup, and you know what? I mean, I'll give Stanton a chance. I've seen updated pictures of Giancarlo Stanton. He is not near as bulky. He has slimmed out more. He looks more like he was in Miami. I think I sent you comparison pictures between Miami and New York, and it was staggering how much bigger he got in New York.
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's like he bulked up to try to help him perform in that bigger market, and it's caused more injuries than anything.
I think that's 100% true. I think his muscles have been tighter, and I think that's why he always has the soft tissue injuries. So he's always pulling quads, pulling hammies, all kinds of stuff. But if he does have like even if he has like a yearly, he had like the first year he was here, like 38 home runs and like 100 plus RBIs, we'll be golden, man. I'll take that.
Yeah,
And of course, you have Gleyber Torres, who's playing in a contract year now. who quietly, I don't know why he gets so much hate that he does. He had a better statistical first half than Jose Altuve did, and Altuve made the All Star game. He did taper off a little bit, but I think he's one of the top five second basemen in all of baseball, if not, you know what I mean? I mean, second base isn't exactly a stacked position, but he's there. Um, you're getting DJ LeMahieu back at third base. Um, Anthony Rizzo, hopefully healthy back, and then you add Alex Verdugo, who does not strike out. He puts the ball in play, which has been one of the biggest things the Yankees have not done. They've been way too swing and miss, right? And this is kind of what we've always talked about: is like the Yankees strike out a ton. They hit a lot of home runs, but when it comes to the playoff time, they get shut down by good pitching. And you add Alex Verdugo to the middle or top of the lineup that can put the ball in play, slap the ball around, get people moving, and we might be in a better spot. And the rotation is a little more questionable right now. But you add Marcus Stroman, you hopefully bring Carlos Rodon back into a situation where he's what he was in 2022, and Nestor can have a bounce back season. He was hurt for most of last year, and you have Clark Schmidt on the back end. But what is very interesting right now is that there are still two big arms on the market that the Yankees are linked to that could change that dynamic very quickly. Their bullpen is still very good. You're still having Clay Holmes close games. I would have loved Josh Hader, but who wouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess we're gonna go with Holmes. And there's talk that we might add Hector Neris from Houston, who's a very good dynamic bullpen arm, and we kind of leave it as it is. And bringing Austin Wells up is a very good sign. I think he's a very good offensive player. He showed it in the minor leagues. He's consistently been a very good hitter. He struggled last year, but it's his first, so did Aaron Judge, and he ended up hitting 52 home runs the next season. So, and he's left-handed. That's another thing. And then, of course, the Martian is looking like he's pulling a Bryce Harper and coming back in 5 or 6 months off of a UCL tear.
I tell you that right there, like that guy, even though I don't like the Yankees, I can't say it enough. I think that dude has got me a little excited. Like this guy could be a superstar,
That
like
kid was
an
special,
absolute
man.
yeah. He could be an absolute superstar, and he's been in the organization for what seems like a decade, and he's only like 20 years old.
Yeah, I think he turned 20 this year, and because he's been in the organization since he was 15. They signed him when he was 15 years old out of the Dominican,
And he
I
looked
think.
like he was about 30.
He did. Yeah, he's a big boy. But no, I mean, like, if he follows the same regiment Bryce Harper did, he did all right when he came back off of UCL surgery. And obviously he's not going to be in the outfield much. He'd probably be limited to a DH role, and what does that do for Stanton and the outfield rotation? But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's kind of a good problem to have. But I kind of want to hit on this too, because like I said, there's two dynamic arms out there left in the free agent market that could change that rotation's look significantly, right? You add Marcus Stroman to Garrett Cole, who's the best pitcher in baseball. I don't want to hear any different right now. He was dominant last year. He's been dominant for the past 4 or 5 years. He's been the best pitcher in baseball, besides Jacob DeGrom. Whenever DeGrom was DeGrom, and
DeGrom.
he's yeah. But I mean, he's not been that for 2 years now.
Mhm.
And it's Garrett Cole. So you have the best pitcher in baseball. You have Carlos Rodon, who's potentially, could, win a Cy Young, right? He has that ability to win a Cy Young award. Marcus Stroman, my thoughts on Marcus Stroman. If he comes in and is a serviceable third starter, we're great, right? Nestor, and then Clark Schmidt. But that can change if they add Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery. And we both know, and then we've talked about this, Blake Snell has one offer on the table right now that we know about, which is insane for a reigning
Mm.
Cy Young winner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in the fact that that's what gets me is he's got one offer, and it's like half of what
I think
him
it's
and his
five
agent
one
want.
eighty, something like that. Five
Oh,
one
I mean,
eighty, five one sixty.
yeah, I read 5/150 or 5/160. Yeah, something like that.
Either way, I mean, if that holds pat, man, he can land in the Yankees' laps, and then all of a sudden you can put The two reigning Cy Young Award winners in the same rotation, which hasn't been done since 1991. The Kansas City Royals did it. I think I told you that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kansas City Royals. Yep.
And at that point, you might have the best rotation of baseball if all goes well, right?
I don't think there's any question about it. Like there's no argument on this end. Like I can sit here and bitch and complain about it all day long, but I mean, how do you have two Cy Young winners? You've got a Stroman who is familiar with the American League East. You've got Rodon who, I mean, could have. I don't remember. Was he in the top 2 or 3 in NL Cy Young 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think he was number 2. I think he lost. I forget who won the Cy Young that year, but he was definitely top 2 or top 3. I think he was number 2 though.
So yeah, I mean, there's no argument on this end. I mean, I can hate it all I want, but I mean, when you've got the money to spend, go ahead and spend it like the Yankees do. So,
And,
I
and,
mean,
and that I think that changes my expectations. If they get Blake Snell and they have the best rotation in baseball on paper, and you know you get a healthy season out of Rodon and Nestor, you kind of put Clark Schmidt into a long reliever role, who has dynamic stuff. He can be a spot starter on a dime, and you still have a really good bullpen. It's I think so. They could win the AL East, right? They could at that point, right? It's going to be between, at this point, Baltimore and New York. Of course, Tampa is always lurking. They always have nobody that I can remember, and then they're at the end of the year they have like 96 wins. So your guess is as good as mine about them. Toronto, I'm never sold on Toronto. Man, they have so much potential, so much young talent, and they never do anything with it.
yeah, you're right.
And and then you got Boston, who's completely reloading at this point, right? They're doing a retooling year. They've got rid of everybody right now.
Mm-hmm.
They traded Chris Sale. They traded Verdugo to the Yankees, by the way, for a couple of relievers that one had a couple like a cup of coffee in the majors last year, and Greg Weissert, and two dudes from like single A, basically. They got Alex Verdugo or they gave away Alex Verdugo for that. So I think Boston's kind of out of it at this point. I think it's between New York and Baltimore if all things goes right for New York, but we know that never happens anymore, so we'll see.
So I guess with that being said, I think it's a good place to kind of end this week's episode. What I want to go with before we do jump off of here is I think next week with with the championship rounds going through, kind of talking about the Super Bowl matchup, whoever that may be, and I think we can kind of continue on this. Run on baseball. I mean, that'll be at basically 1 week away from pitchers and catchers reporting, which is both Ethan and I's one of, if not our favorite times of the year is the start of the season.
I'm getting
so,
and the off season super exciting for me. It always has been, obviously. Yeah, dude, for pitchers and catchers reporting, it just means warm weather's around the corner, and so is baseball, man. I can't
absolutely wait. And I mean, we didn't even get into the whole fact of Shohei Ohtani signing the biggest Major League Baseball contract in history, and them getting also the top pitcher out of Japan, Yamamoto, and also getting trade from the Rays, Glass now, and now just as of today, this is being recorded on January 23rd. They just signed James Paxton. So, we didn't even get to the Dodgers yet. So I think we can really go off and play on a lot of baseball stuff next week.
Yeah, and, I forgot to mention this to you, but the Hall of Fame ballot came out today.
It did, yes.
So, congratulations to like Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, and Joe Bauer.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to say that at the end. We can discuss them more next week, but yeah, I just wanted to say that the Hall of Fame did come out today, and congrats to those 3 guys. They all well deserve it. I had a question about Mauer. I knew he'd be a Hall of Famer, but I didn't know he'd be first ballot. But they earned it.
Oh, absolutely, and I think Beltre, given obviously, and like I said, we'll go into this more a little bit more next week. But yes, you're right. Beltre, absolutely 100% first ballot. For me, I think Joe Mauer was a first ballot, just what he brought to that organization, being a number 1 overall pick. And I don't know if you know this, but he was the actual number 1 recruit in football his senior year in high school. I
I
don't know
think
if
he
you
was
knew
going to
that.
Michigan, right? I think he committed to Michigan.
I'll have to do some research on that. I just saw that he was the number one rated recruit in football his senior year, but I don't remember where he was trying to commit to. But we'll look into that for next week for sure. And of course, Todd Helton. I think he's been a great player for many, many years, always hitting over 300, upwards of 350 or more. So I think great overall first baseman. So yes, all well deserving.
Absolutely. And, Todd Helton, probably the face of Colorado there for a little bit. So
I was to say, I think he still is the face of Colorado, in my opinion.
you mean
So,
Ubaldo's not? I mean,
yeah, you're hitting me where it hurts. I get it. I believe what they call that a dick move, but
hey,
it
man,
is what it is.
I got to get you a little bit.
I got you. Well, anyway, E, as always, buddy, thank you for joining me this week, and look forward to next week. And as I said, talking about the divisional rounds, the championship round winners, and Super Bowl matchups, and of course, talking about more baseball. So, from myself, Ryan, to Ethan, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next week. Peace.
Peace out.